All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. It's been quite some time since I had a live stream update on here. So I'm very excited to do this video. There's a lot to go over, a lot of updates having to do with Ripple, the whole ecosystem around XRP, some really fun Ripple Riddler stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to dive into it. So drop a comment. Let me know if my audio is good. It's the first time I've used this streaming software in like over half a year. So there's some updates and I'm warming up to it. But one thing you might have noticed is I cut my hair off. So I just turned 30 years old last month and decided to do a little bit of a drastic reset and chopped it all off. And it is feeling so good, honestly. It's like, as much as I think hair holds frequency and is kind of a spiritual antenna, I think it can also hold trauma and old energies. So cutting it all off has been a really good feeling reset. And yeah, thank you, Glenn, for letting me know. Awesome, awesome. So yeah, quick recap of the last couple months, what I've been up to and why I haven't been as active, and then we'll get into the updates. But I've been doing a lot of traveling. So this last month, I went to Catalina to celebrate my birthday with my family and my wife, and that was an awesome experience. We did snorkeling, jet skiing. We did a bison tour. I saw a bat ray, eagle ray when I was snorkeling, and an eel and a bunch of cool fish. So that was awesome. And then in the months prior, I did a couple conferences in Sedona, both vending and speaking. So I vended at the Graham Hancock conference in Sedona a couple months ago, and that was an amazing time. And then about a week or two before that, I spoke and vended for Conscious Crypto Academy at my friend Rion of Team Light's conference, and got to speak at the post-conference event, and that was a lot of fun. So that recording from that event is actually up on my YouTube. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's basically a free crypto workshop called Crypto in the Golden Age. So I recommend watching that if you are looking to learn more about crypto and get more into the technical and the spiritual side of it. We go into basically both you could say the left and the right brain, or the masculine and the feminine side of it on the spiritual side and on the logistical technical side. And I got a lot of really good feedback from that. And then I also spoke at and vended at the Journey to Truth Rebels of Disclosure conference that Tyler and Aaron put on. And that was out in St. Louis, Missouri. And so it's just been back-to-back events that I've been doing, and it's been such an amazing time to travel, see good friends, be with soul family again. And that video from Journey to Truth conference, I believe, is still available through the replay link. You can get the whole replay for the entire conference with my talk included in there. And I think you can find that on Journey to Truth's website. I believe they still have it up. And I'm going to try to also get a copy of that to put up on my channel for my talk sometime in the future. Let's see what else. I think that's mostly it with the traveling. I got hit by a tornado when we were in St. Louis. We all went to Cahokia Mounds after the conference, and we showed up a little late to the mounds, and basically it was clear skies when everyone else showed up. And then as we started to get there, it started to get stormy. And then literally a tornado hit St. Louis on the 16th of May. You can look it up. There was actually a few casualties, which is really sad. And it ripped apart a lot of neighborhoods in downtown St. Louis. But we were driving our RV and we got caught up in the outer winds of the tornado. We were literally driving into it, and the sky was like green and yellow. I've never seen anything like that. It was really trippy. And we decided, okay, maybe we shouldn't be driving into it. We were going to our RV park. So we turned around and started to just go the other way, and then got caught with some really high winds. And it actually caused some structural damage on our RV that I had to report for insurance. And now they're telling me it might get written off as a total, because they might not actually be able to fix it, because the damage was had to do with the frame and everything. So that was quite the adventure. It's always an adventure going to St. Louis. And that event was amazing. The Rebels of Disclosure conference, they did an amazing job there. And I think that's everything as far as events that I've been doing. So yeah, been very eventful, and lots have been going on with crypto. So we're going to get into that now. What's been going on in the Ripple and XRP space, and with Trump, and with all these changes going on. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And I've got a lot of links here, but we're going to try to keep it kind of concise today, because I have a tendency to do many multi-hours when doing live streams. And I have a hard cutoff today because I have to get on a strategy call with somebody in regards to Conscious Crypto Academy, which if you want to join Conscious Crypto Academy, there is a link down below to book a free 30-minute strategy call with me. So feel free to take advantage of that. And there's some other links down there for my socials and for a $30 off a Decent hardware wallet, which is my favorite crypto hardware wallet. That's a big discount. And that's my referral link. I get a little cut from that. So if you want to support me and also get a hardware wallet, that is the way to go. That's in the description. And let's go ahead and jump into the stories for today. So today's 4th of July, obviously. Happy 4th of July to all the Americans out there and maybe those who are celebrating abroad as well. So this is from Not Financial Advice Crypto. They say, remember 4th of July 2020 when XRP hit 17.76 cents, 17 cents, 76. Gold hit 1,776, 1776. Silver hit $17.76. And XLM hit the reverse of 1776 at 0.6771. Well, what happened today? This 4th of July, Bitcoin hit basically 1776, the equivalent of what they could get at the current price range. So it's $107,760 today. And I don't know, coincidence? Is there such thing as coincidences? Or is this something that has been programmed? Or as they say in crypto, it's coded. That's kind of the lingo. It's coded in. So I don't know. Is this divine? Is this coded in by humans, military intelligence, white hats? Let me know what you think. But that is pretty strange, to say the least. So getting into the biggest news story of the past week, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, posted this, that they are filing for a bank charter from the OCC. So Ripple is applying to become a national bank. And man, this is huge. Like I can't really overstate how big this is, because this is something that, you know, I've been talking about for years on this channel, that this is going to be coming. Tons of other XRP influencers have been talking about this as well, that Ripple would eventually become a bank. And there's a lot of theories that extend from this, that Ripple could become the new equivalent of the World Bank, that they could take over from the central bank cartel infrastructure. I think that this is a really positive thing. And one of the benefits of that for us as XRP holders is that this opens up the possibility for us to get loans on our XRP through Ripple. And so I've talked about in the past how I think, even though right now there's no solid, trustworthy way to generate interest or staking rewards or, you know, benefits like that on our XRP, you know, we pretty much just have to hold it right now, that eventually there would be multiple avenues. You know, one of those avenues being Flare Networks, which is going to be launching their FXRP asset with their XRP Fi ecosystem, which is going to provide decentralized DeFi, decentralized finance infrastructure for XRP and the ability to stake our XRP essentially for rewards. And then I've also said in the past that I think that there will be competing centralized infrastructure for rewards, where banks will want to borrow our XRP from us and pay us to borrow it, to use it as this global technology infrastructure. And so this is a huge green flag and a really good sign, because, you know, it's one thing to go in the, say in the future, we go to Chase or American Express or Wells Fargo or Bank of America, and we loan them our XRP for rewards. Well, you know, we're still at the mercy of that bank, and these banks don't have the best track records, right? And so that's why I think the decentralized infrastructure, like through Flare, could be a major winning case against going with the centralized with the banks, and that the banks would have to provide basically really competitive services in order to convince people to go with them instead of with the decentralized infrastructure. But now we get the most trustworthy centralized institution in the space, in my opinion, Ripple. You know, they've proven to me that they are reputable. And, you know, just from vibes alone, Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz at Ripple have amazing energy and amazing vibes. If you've never seen their interviews, I recommend checking it out, vibe them out for yourself, especially when you compare it to other crypto, CEOs and other crypto leadership positions, I think Ripple really has some of the most solid energy in the space in terms of who is leading them. And so this opens up massive opportunities where we're potentially going to be able to borrow on our XRP and get loans through Ripple, which Ripple would be the most trustworthy, group to keep our XRP with, especially over a bank, because Ripple already owns around 40% of the supply. So we know that they're trustworthy. We know they know how to keep their XRP and they're not going to lose it. We don't know that with a bank. We don't know what kind of, other tricky things that the mainstream banks could pull. But this is going to be huge. So to just read this real quick, he says, true to our longstanding compliance roots, Ripple is applying for a national bank charter from the OCC. If approved, we would have both the state via New York DFS and federal oversight, a new and unique benchmark for trust in the stablecoin market. Because remember, they recently launched their stablecoin RLUSD as a competitor to some of the biggest stablecoins out there, which would be USDC and USDT Tether, which Tether in particular has a lot of controversy. It's a foreign company. They seem to be potentially acting fraudulently. Those are the allegations. Tether prints money like the Federal Reserve prints dollars. And then whenever Tether prints a bunch of new coins out of thin air, we see Bitcoin get propped up. So this is something I've talked about too, that, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is artificially inflated primarily, or at least one of the driving factors, because of the printing of Tether, then going to buy Bitcoin. So when Tether prints all this money, Bitcoin goes up in price because a lot of it's going into Bitcoin. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have XRP, which I believe is artificially being suppressed, where the price has been suppressed for so long. We've had so much good news. We've had so many partnerships, and yet the price has not moved as significantly as it really should have. And so it's a rubber band effect in both cases, where if you are stretched out in either direction, you're over valued or you're undervalued, eventually that rubber band will snap back. And so I believe it could happen concurrently, where we see Bitcoin have a large black swan type collapse as the rubber band snaps down, particularly if Tether gets really put under the magnifying glass for what they're doing. And we could see XRP at the same time have a massive snap upwards because of the suppression, basically artificial suppression that's been occurring for so long. So he says earlier in this week, via standard custody, we also applied for a Fed master account. While Congress is working towards clear rules and regulations, and banks, in a far cry from the years of Operation Choke Point 2.0, are leaning in, this access would allow us to hold RLUSD reserves directly with the Federal Reserve and provide an additional layer of security to future-proof trust in RLUSD. And if you remember, Operation Choke Point 2.0 was the covert operation that took place under the Biden admin, where they were debanking and going after particularly crypto and fintech financial technology companies like Ripple and others, where they're, just like with the Trump family, they were debanking them, they were taking away services and making it really almost impossible for them to operate, literally choking them out. So he says, Ripple always has and will continue to build trusted, battle-tested, and secure infrastructure. In a $250 billion plus market, RLUSD stands out for putting regulation first, setting the standard that institutions expect. And the retweet here says, Ripple has applied for a national banking license, joining the rush of cryptocurrency companies seeking to cross the divide into mainstream finance. So, this is huge. And I think it went under the radar for a lot of people who are not following this news every day. But that is going to be really, really big for XRP. And keep in mind, Ripple is still a private company. And lately, with what they've been saying, they don't have plans to take it public anytime soon. That's been a big theory, that Ripple is going to be going public. But they've basically said that, they want to keep it private because going public presents a lot of problems. You get foreign outside interest. You get susceptibility to essentially infiltration by, large companies like, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, who would want to come in and buy a large portion of the shares and ownership in the company. So I think it's in Ripple's best interest to remain private, and it looks like that's what they're going to be doing for at least the immediate future. So that is really exciting. That's probably the largest story of the week that I wanted to start out with. And some of these stories we're going to get into go back to about a month ago. Here is a video from Digital Asset Investor. Follow him if you don't. He posted this. Ripple Bank, and I'm not going to play the audio here because I have to change some settings, but he says a company like Ripple could actually get a bank license. And this was at the XRP Las Vegas 2025 event, which was in the last week of May. So he was spot on. That was just like 2 months ago, or a little less than 2 months ago, about a month ago. So huge stuff. Okay. In other Ripple news, Judge Torres, previous to what we just talked about, this story came out just days before the Ripple announced that they had applied to become a bank, where Judge Torres had denied Ripple and the SEC joint motion for an indicative ruling. So they were basically trying to speed up this process of the case, because now that the Trump admin is in power, and they've put a very pro-crypto guy at the SEC and the other agencies like the CFTC, Ripple and SEC are essentially on the same side now. So it's really just up to the bureaucracy of the legal system to kind of wrap this up. And they filed to basically, hey, speed this up. Let's get an indicative ruling. Let's get this over with. And they denied, or Judge Torres denied that, basically pushing the case back to at least August for her to, basically make their next announcement on the legal side of what the judge is going to do. And then just days after that, before the other big announcement we talked about with the bank, Brad Garlinghouse had said that they are dropping their cross appeal, and basically that they're speeding up what they can do in the legal process. And he says Ripple is dropping our cross appeal, and the SEC is expected to drop their appeal, as they previously said. We're closing this chapter once and for all and focusing on what's most important, building the internet of value. Lock in. And when Brad says lock in, I think that's something to pay attention to, because we know David Schwartz, the guy who basically created XRP on a technology side, he loves to drop riddles. He loves, he's a cryptographer. He's basically the top cryptographer in the world. And I think he's part of what is behind the Ripple Riddler phenomenon with Bearable Guy and Mr. Pool and the other Riddlers. And, Bearable Guy, that fuzzy bear that we'll talk about later, he's got the same initials as Brad Garlinghouse, BG. So maybe Brad Garlinghouse is really him. But when they're telling you to lock in, I mean, that's a not so subtle hint that we're getting very close to this taking off. So even though XRP did do a huge return of investment over the last year, particularly in November, it jumped from being 50 cents or so in the month prior to that to going up almost to, I think it went to over $3, actually, $3.30 or something like that from November, December era. And then we've kind of had a little bit of a pullback with the rest of the market. That's expected when you have a large jump. But we had an over 5x return of investment in XRP in a couple months, which outpaced Bitcoin's return of investment. So XRP was actually a better investment than Bitcoin over the last year. And that was a long awaited and overdue bonus for XRP holders, who many have been waiting at that 50-cent level for a long time. So I think we're getting ready for that next leg up, particularly with this announcement about them applying to become a bank. And what's up? One step at a time. Good to see you in the chat. So yeah, basically get ready, lock in. I think we're getting very close to major moves that we haven't seen before, and breaking that previous all-time high price of around $3.80, which happened way back in 2018, you guys. Like, that was a long time ago that we had all-time high. Bitcoin and all these other cryptos, Ethereum, Solana, they've all since hit their all-time highs and surpassed them. So this is that rubber band effect again, right? Ripple, XRP, they've been unfairly prosecuted and attacked by the previous administration, and that is going to have a snapback effect. And when it does happen, XRP is known to be, when it moves, it's known to be the quickest and most forceful mover in crypto. In 2017-18, it went from being less than half of a penny in the year of 2017 to the $3.80 and doing most of those moves in a 2-week period. And so I think we're looking at a similar situation in the near future. So if you've been holding your XRP for a long time and you're like, yo, when is this going to happen? I'm ready for it. I've been waiting. I think we're getting very, very close. Now, in other news, more to add to this, another sign that we're getting very close. Arthur Britto, the mysterious unknown figure behind Ripple and XRP, has made his, what I can see, his first post. I don't know if he had previous tweets, but what I saw was people were saying it was his first public post of any kind in like 14 years. So his only tweet on his page, he just tweeted this emoji with 2 eyes and no mouth. And if you've never heard of Arthur Britto, it makes sense because he is completely anonymous and he is one of the key figures behind the creation of XRP alongside David Schwartz, Chris Larson, Jed McCaleb, and Ripple as well. He still sits on the board of Ripple and nobody knows what he looks like. There's not a single picture of him. There's no interviews. All there is his name in documents, and occasionally David Schwartz or Brad Garlinghouse will drop his name in an interview. But how weird is it that in 2025, you can have a figure as prominent as he is with no photo record trace of them anywhere? Like, how long do you have to be anticipating staying anonymous to not have any old photos of you, to not have any LinkedIn profile pictures, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, nothing, no interviews, completely anonymous? And I think this plays into the theory that Arthur Britto could be, for one of the Satoshis who co-created Bitcoin, because it seems like Bitcoin was, as many of you know, it was anonymously created, and it seems like it was actually a group of people rather than one person. And David Schwartz is a big, a lot of people theorize that he's one of those people. That is something that he's even addressed and has kind of been bashful around how he addresses it, but basically says, I could be Satoshi, but I'm not. But if you're under an NDA, then obviously you can't say it. But Arthur Britto would be a great contender for that. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, when Satoshi left the Bitcoin space and went, off grid, he said, I'm moving on to bigger and better things. And he also had brought up Ripple and XRP as being something that he thought would be really important in the future, that being Satoshi who said that. So is Arthur Britto Satoshi? I don't know. I think it's a real possibility. Is Arthur Britto Mr. Pool? That's another theory. Is Arthur Britto a time traveler? Because Mr. Pool appears to potentially be a time traveler, being very similar to the 17 phenomena. If you don't know Mr. Pool, very similar to 17, where they make cryptic posts that are meant to kind of engage people in doing further research, and has predicted, honestly, I've seen more predictions come true from Mr. Pool than I have 17. Which is pretty crazy. So there's so many documented cases of things that Mr. Pool has done, with deltas coming true years later on that exact date, predicting natural disasters, market trends, various world events. So I don't know, maybe Arthur Britto's a time traveler. Maybe that's how he was able to, through this whole age of the internet, somehow remain anonymous. But definitely something to keep an eye out for is this Arthur Britto figure, and doing some of your own research into who he might really be. And so this is a post from Not Financial Advice Crypto. Again, I would recommend following them. They are a great decoder for the Ripple Riddlers, particularly for Bearable Guy. And I'm going to play you this quick video. I have to exit out of this page real quick and reshare this with audio. So give me just a sec. We're going to do share and audio on. And I believe, let's see. Here we go. Okay, I think you guys can see that. I'm going to play this. and then we'll talk about it.
This has to be one of the craziest 589s hidden in plain sight I've ever seen. Seriously, how do you explain this one?
I think the macro trends around crypto are very, very, very positive. We can debate, how quickly those things are going to happen.
You guys, that was intentional. I don't know who we're waiting for at CNBC to give us confirmation, because that'll never happen. So I'm going to say it again. That was intentional. That is an impossible coincidence. Credit to XRP Drops for that find. But you know what's even more interesting about that? It's not an XRP that 589 is sitting beneath in the video. It's a Bitcoin. And that got me thinking. Since Bitcoin and XRP are complementary, as I discussed in this video, because Bitcoin's proof of work energy consumption is by design to generate real value, and how it will be sent over the clean green consensus protocol of the XRP ledger, making them complementary. And also in this video, how the colors of the Bitcoin and Ripple logos were likely chosen because they match ionized liquid gold and silver, which implies the hidden relationship of gold store of value and silver payments, again making them complementary. This all meant to me there was likely a singular effort behind the creation and direction of both of these world-changing cryptos that simply isn't stated publicly, but that the pieces are there to put together. Could that explain why the first time the Bitcoin source code was ever posted in a public forum was 589, May 8, 2009? If everything is way more orchestrated behind the scenes than we realize, could it have been a clever team of cryptographers who enjoy riddling, who not only built Bitcoin, but who started the whole 589 thing to begin with, to kick things off with a subliminal 589 embedded into Bitcoin itself? Satoshi didn't stick around for long, by the way. He sent his last ever email on April 23rd, 2011, saying he was moving on to other things. Okay. What happened exactly 5 years, 8 months, and 9 days after Satoshi's last email? Brad Garlinghouse was named CEO of Ripple. What in the world are the chances, you guys? And if 589 isn't a clue that things are quietly coordinated behind the scenes, how do you explain this? On May 8, 2009, the same date the Bitcoin source code was published in a public forum for the first time ever, the SEC approved release number 34-59895, the file that established the regulatory blueprint that laid the legal and logistical foundation for future digital asset products like Bitcoin ETFs, foreshadowing the tokenized financial future we are entering right now. And it ended in 59895. I said to ChatGPT, holy shit, this specific file served as the whole playbook for digital asset ETFs? And it replied, yes, holy shit is right. This specific SEC file from May 8, 2009 didn't just approve a gold ETF. It codified the architecture that would become the playbook for every single digital asset ETF that followed. Do you realize what this means? It means 589 was coded into Bitcoin and digital assets in general before XRP.
All right, so if you don't follow that page, highly recommend following them. They have a ton of amazing content around this kind of stuff, and a really great speaking voice and good audio production and video production. So yeah, let's get back into it, because there is more when it comes to that whole phenomena. So let me share my screen again. And so that alone is pretty crazy, right? But then the same day that Arthur Britto posted, which by the way, was the same day that Trump announced the ceasefire between Iran and Israel. This occurred just hours before that announcement. So that's a crazy coincidence within itself that that happened that same day. But guess what? The day that Arthur Britto posted this was exactly 5,890 days since the May 8th, 2009 paper about Bitcoin that was highlighted in that video. So once again, there seems to be these major connections between the creation of Bitcoin and the creation of XRP. And I think that could be one of the huge catalysts that, if that information were to become more mainstream and concrete and verified that there was a connection, how many people would instantly sell their Bitcoin to buy XRP? Because if we found out that it's the same creators, and that, as David Schwartz and the team say very publicly, that Bitcoin was, or sorry, that XRP was created to be a better Bitcoin to solve the problems of Bitcoin, which are the slow transaction speeds, which can take up to an hour, the high fees, which can be $10 to $20, even if you're sending a small amount, and the intense energy usage, which one Bitcoin transaction can run an average household's energy for up to a couple weeks, which is kind of insane to really ponder that. XRP is 99.9% more green, right? Doesn't use all this mining. There's no mining for XRP. You don't have to have these huge warehouses that are running these mining rigs. You can just be a validator on a normal computer. Pretty much instant, you could say, quantum transaction speeds, settle any amount of money anywhere in the world in 2 to 4 seconds. And for essentially free, negligible fees, you're paying a fraction of a penny every time you send some XRP as a fee, instead of potentially $10 or more. Let alone with Ethereum, you could be spending $50 sometimes on fees. So XRP really was, as they say themselves, created to be a better Bitcoin, to take the pros of Bitcoin and weed out the cons of it and make it a much more robust, higher secure system as well, because Bitcoin is prone to what is called 51% attacks, which is where you have bad actors that can come in and try to do a 51% attack on the system to create control over it, do double spends, rewrite history. That's with proof of work. That's the consensus mechanism for Bitcoin versus proof of stake on Ethereum or other chains. And then XRP uses its own unique consensus mechanism that is based off of the Federated Byzantine agreement, or sorry, the Byzantine generals problem, and they call it the Federated Byzantine Agreement, or FBA, it connects to this age-old riddle about how can you basically have a bunch of soldiers on a battlefield communicate with each other and come to a consensus about a battle plan when they can't independently speak to each other directly. So that is that's pretty crazy. Like that blew my mind, let alone the fact that it was the same day as the ceasefire, which many thought was going to become a World War III event. So Arthur Britto, crazy lore behind him. And maybe one day we'll figure out who he is. Maybe we'll find out his true identity. And here is a post from the Digital Asset Investor, once again, saying, Britto, anyone? All the money, including debt. And this is, I don't know if this was Britto's last post, but it was one of his last posts in 2014, December 29th, where he said, I believe Ripple will eventually support bonds and bond markets. So, all the money is something that's thrown around often with XRP. And what that means is that we're looking at every form of value in the world being represented on the blockchain in one form or another. And that's what's becoming a reality very quickly. And this falls under the what is called RWA, or real world assets umbrella, which is that real world assets like physical things, gold, silver, oil, different natural resources, and then also digital things like stocks, bonds, and as he's saying, even debt will be represented in the market cap because they will be represented on chain. And so when people are looking at what could the value of XRP be, we really have to take into consideration that all the debt in the world could also be represented as positive value in terms of the price on the blockchain, which that might be kind of a complicated concept, but basically what that means is that it's not just the money in existence that'll be represented in XRP. It's all the debt in existence that will also be represented. And this could also be a pathway eventually to, getting rid of debt. I think that, we have that potential at play where debt could be erased. I mean, even Trump has come out and said, hey, wouldn't it be nice to just send some Bitcoin off and get rid of all of our debt to China, which is something that I've talked about in the past too with my friend Zen God, Zach. You know, we talked about on our roundtables many years ago how we thought Bitcoin could potentially have been a master plan to pay off US debt and to fundraise essentially a way to pay off the US debt. And it would make sense why China now has such a huge control over the Bitcoin network, right? Or did we create it to basically give to them to be like, hey, this is, you know, our payment in terms of our debt to you. Gaia, let's see in the chat real quick. Gaia Earthhealer says, how many shares of XRP do you recommend we have? You know, it all comes down to your personal finances. There's no like universal minimum or anything like that. I will say what is kind of floated around on the internet is that 2000 XRP is what people say colloquially will make you financially independent and a very wealthy person one day. Now, some people might have less than that. Some people might have a lot more than that. It all comes down to what you feel comfortable putting into crypto. And, you know, for many people like myself, I treat it as my savings. I don't keep money in the traditional system. I don't have a 401k or any of those things. For me, it's all crypto. I'm very confident in it. So it really comes down to what you're able to do. And there's no right answer. There's no right or wrong amount. It's just what you feel comfortable and what you have available to comfortably, you know, invest. What's up, Amberine? Good to see you in the chat. Amberine is in Conscious Crypto Academy. Shout out to you. White Light Messenger says, hey, brother, do you see Bitcoin and ETH going to zero? You know, I don't know. Absolutely. I mean, what we just talked about, obviously, we hinted at that could be a possibility. For me, Bitcoin doesn't really have any natural attractive inherent value to it. You know, the Bitcoin crowd will say Bitcoin is a store of value, and it's, you know, they claim it's the most robust and decentralized. But when has the first of any technology ever been the best, right? Like, it's kind of like making the argument that the first iPhone is better than the iPhone 16, which it's clearly not, right? So the only way that I see Bitcoin really sticking around is just as a novelty, honestly, like as kind of an antique that you keep on your bookshelf that just has value because people say it has value, not because it has inherent value. You know, you can make that comparison with gold, but gold obviously does have an inherent value outside of the value we put on it. You know, you can make jewelry. It's actually a health, you know, it's a vital mineral to our bodies. We have gold in our hearts. You know, people take monoatomic gold as a supplement. So aside from jewelry, you know, gold does have inherent value to it. Plus, obviously, it's the oldest currency in the world. It's got, you know, that whole reputation. But Bitcoin doesn't really have that. Bitcoin is just the first and, you know, the most popular. And most people are just buying Bitcoin because it is the most popular. And they're buying it because they think it's the least risky. So I do think there's a possibility Bitcoin and Ethereum as well could go to zero, but I don't know for sure. If it does stick around, I think it's probably just more so as a novelty more than anything. And here's Digital Asset Investor again saying, my money is on the Bridto post relating to NDAs expiring. And the post retweeted says, Arthur Britto's return after 14 years is the biggest sign that something very big is about to happen for XRP. Remember, there are 1,700, that's 1,700 NDAs pending disclosure. XRP will dominate global finance. It was created for that. People are still distracted by memes and Bitcoin. And we're going to get into memes in a little bit at the end of this show. We're going to specifically talk about XRP memes because even though memes, yes, are not utility driven generally, and they are more so gambling, I do think the XRP memes are going to be very successful. And we see a lot of the older meme space on Solana and Ethereum starting to flock to XRP memes, which right now are still in their infancy stage and very undervalued. So we're going to get into that near the end. Hang out until then if you want to get my view on some of these XRP memes. So, and let's see, I want to see what, yeah, okay, not financial advice. I just posted that same thing again. So transitioning out of this, into XRP's kind of potential recently at the, I believe it was either XRP Las Vegas or it was the Ripple conference that took place in Singapore, which was shortly after that, called Apex. Brad Garlinghouse was asked directly, what percentage of Swift do you think XRP could capture just in the next few years? And I guess here it says 2030. I don't know if he said that in particular. Maybe that was said in the question, but I remember it being in the next few years. I guess 2030 is pretty close. That's the next 5 years. And if you don't know, Swift is the traditional banking system. So Swift is the system that was set up by the central banks in, I think, the 70s, that basically if you do a wire transfer, say you send money from one bank to another or internationally, it's going to go through the Swift system. And the problem is that, for one, it's very old. It's basically dinosaur technology created in the 70s. So that was 50 plus years ago. In terms of technology, like that is, like what technology do we really use on a day-to-day basis that was built, 50 years ago? And it doesn't even settle funds. So Swift just is a messaging system. It just tells the banks how much they owe each other. So if you send somebody a wire, it goes through Swift, and then Swift says, okay, bank A owes bank B this much money. And then those banks go in on the back end and they settle those funds privately. There's no system to actually settle those funds. So what XRP is trying to do is either to replace Swift or integrate with it, not as its whole thing, but as a, that's one of the things XRP could do on the long list of things, is integrate into Swift or completely replace it. And so when asked, he said he thinks it could capture around 14% of the volume, which would, I guess, be $700 billion a day. So obviously many people's next question is, well, what does that make the price? What price would XRP be at capturing 14% of the, the Swift ecosystem? And I've seen various degrees when asked AI and people's analysis, but generally I've seen anywhere between a couple $100 to over $1,000 for just capturing 14%. Now, that's amazing because 14% is not very much. So if XRP does capture the majority, if not all, of the Swift ecosystem, we're looking at potentially that $10,000 plus XRP price that's been talked about for so long. So all these things that have been kind of, for lack, excuse my French, but shit on by the kind of Bitcoin and other communities within crypto, because crypto is very tribal, and it's been heavily criticized for the price predictions that XRP could reach. The Bitcoin people would say, oh, you're crazy to think XRP could go over $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. But now we're seeing the actual math of how that would work out. And I'm seeing now a lot of these Bitcoin influencers now start to come on board with XRP and Ripple and go, well, for a while it was just talk, but now they're actually doing it. And another story related to this that I forgot to put in here, but I believe it was in the last 2-3 months, Ripple acquired another company called Hidden Road, and Hidden Road processes a large amount of transactions. I forget how much, but it's a large amount. And so when that story dropped, that's when I saw a lot of Bitcoin people going, oh, this could be that big moment for Ripple that the XRP community has been theorizing for so long, where they're going to start capturing huge amounts of the global economy in terms of payments. So Hidden Road acquisition, you can look that up, but that was a big move for Ripple. And then, of course, if you didn't know as well, in the last few months, Ripple tried to buy the company Circle. And Circle is one of the co-creators and founders around the USDC stablecoin, which is basically RLUSD's biggest competitor. If you don't know what a stablecoin is, that is a crypto that is just pegged 1-to-1 with the US dollar. So it will always be worth $1. And it's not an investment in terms of getting a return, but it is a way to represent and store your wealth in US dollars, but on the blockchain, having the full sovereignty of the blockchain, being able to store it on a private wallet instead of a bank. there's a lot of advantages to stable coins. And so Ripple made an offer for USDC that USDC denied. And I think they offered 5 billion or something. And then they were joking that they were going to then offer like 10 billion or 20 billion. But then Circle ended up going public recently. And, you know, it's kind of this competition right now in the payment space of Ripple and Circle. And in my opinion, Ripple is going to win. I think they have the most advanced technology, the best vibes, the best energy behind them. And just intuitively, I feel I don't think Circle and USDC are going to pose a threat or win this battle. You could argue that that's, you know, one of the deep state arms is that company in that group. So lots of stuff going on with Ripple. They're making big moves, and that's a big green flag and a bullish sign for Ripple and XRP. They're out there making offers, buying companies, talking about, you know, basically how optimistic they are and how good things are looking for Ripple and XRP. So here is a clip from, I guess, Zurich Airport in Switzerland. It says Ripple ads taking over. XRP is going mainstream. Mass adoption's already happening. And as you can see, there's a bunch of advertisements for Ripple. And in addition to that, there's been a lot of recent advertisements in Times Square in New York, where all the big billboards are, where a lot of people are seeing those advertisements. They've been buying advertisements there too that have been going viral online. Gaia Earth Healer says, thank you for that answer. Been wondering that for a while. Appreciate it. Joel in the chat. Joel's my assistant coach in Crypto Academy. He's talking about the drop coin, which is one of the popular XRP meme coins. We'll get into that in a little bit. White Light Messenger says, let's manifest XRP price at $1 million. Bitcoin reached 100,000 and is the dinosaur of crypto. I do think that is possible. I genuinely think, given enough time, you know, who knows how long, maybe 10 years, could be longer, could be sooner. But I think $1 million, which would be like a 7-figure XRP price, is definitely possible. And, you know, that goes back to David Schwartz made a tweet about that. The only time I've ever seen him reference some kind of price figure around XRP was literally him saying $1 million XRP is more practical than a $1 XRP. Because if you have a bank trying to move $1 million of value and they're using XRP to move it, if XRP cost $1 million, they only need 1 XRP to make that settlement. Whereas if XRP cost $1, they would need 1 million XRP to make that settlement. So literally XRP operates more efficiently the higher the price is. And the banks would, and the whole ecosystem would want to have an XRP that is around $1 million, because it's going to make the whole system run that much more fluidly, because sending 1 XRP is a lot less intensive than sending 1 million XRP. And again, that's the only time I've ever seen David Schwartz make some kind of price reference. It wasn't directly a prediction, but I've never seen him post anything else that's like XRP at this value, blah, blah, blah. So to me, that was like a major sign that that is a big possibility in the future. Yep, it can't be cheap, says White Light Messenger. That's exactly what he said. It can't be dirt cheap. That was literally the quote he said. So here's another story. Breaking: American Express has issued a notice to clients regarding delays in cross-border payments and wire transfers, citing a, quote, Federal Reserve system update and a, quote, wide system upgrade. Payment infrastructure is being modernized, and American Express is a known Ripple partner. So this is a notification screenshot that someone took. A planned outage wire transfers will impact your account. We're reaching out to let you know about a planned outage due to a Federal Reserve system upgrade that will temporarily impact the abilities to send or receive wire transfers on your American Express business checkings account. So I don't know, is this related to XRP? Are they updating and getting ready for what you could call the quantum financial system, or the QFS, in the background? That is the rumor and theories that I've heard. And from people who are also connected to the banks, my friend John, who I do the Crypto Corner with on their channel, a crypto show that we do together. He's in the banking system. He's worked for them for many decades. And one of his buddies has confirmed that basically the bank that he works at has the new treasury gold-backed dollar ready to go. And that this, what people call the QFS, I don't think it's ever going to be called that publicly, but that's kind of the colloquial term for it, that is essentially already ready to go. And it's just a matter of the timing of it and of flipping the switch. So we'll have to see what happens. We might not know right away after this upgrade. Could still take some time before anything goes public, but this seems very interesting and promising, to say the least. Kevin Seeker 11 says, thank you for all this great info. It's great to see a conscious person talking about crypto. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's, that's what conscious crypto is all about. That's what our academy is all about. So if you want to learn more about joining our academy, you can click the link in the description to book a free 30-minute strategy call with me, where we will go over what you're going through, what kind of help you're looking for, see if what we're teaching is going to be a good fit for you. What we teach is structured around XRP and the whole ecosystem of other assets, which we're going to get into some stories around those other assets next. And in our academy, we have core course material. We have in the material, we have a lot of conceptual information that we teach you to give you a good foundation of the crypto space and how it works, and both the technical and spiritual side of it. A little bit about trading. And then we go really into detail, showing you step-by-step tutorials of how to actually set everything up. So the wallets, build soft wallets, hardware wallets, how to stake certain cryptos like Coreum and Flare, Coreum staking. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but that's literally between 40 and 50% annual returns right now, which is really insane and mind-blowing. Limited time opportunity with that. So we show you how to set it all up. And I've worked with people who are, I'll just say, not the most tech savvy with their computers. And we're able to help people that are even, really struggle with technology. I've worked with people in their late 70s who, really don't use tech, and I was able to help them out, get them set up. So we have a full spectrum, all ages, from as old as late 70s to as young as like 19 I've worked with. But yeah, it's an amazing community. We do weekly coaching calls. So every week we jump on a group Zoom call and we go over any questions that you have, anything you're struggling with, and setting up these various things. We go over updates, we share research, we talk about the state of the markets, and we go over the geopolitical news that is relevant for what's going on in crypto. And then we go into tons of other fun, conscious and disclosure related topics on those calls too. Everything from secret space programs to water filtration to parasite cleansing to astral projection, everything in between. So they're really fun. And we have a private community group chat there too, where you basically have 24/7 help, whether it's from me while I'm awake, or we got people on the other side of the world in Australia. So even if it's the middle of the night, wherever your time zone is, there's always someone in there that, is willing to help you out and give you some support. And that's a really good resource. So that's a private chat just for the academy, aside from my public groups that I have. So link is down in the description if you want to sign up for a free strategy call and talk to me about what you're looking for help with. Gaia says, do you help people make money currently, or is this only to help set us up for the future? So we show you how to set up passive income protocols with crypto. So what's referred to as staking, which is essentially interest generation on the blockchain. So like I said, with Coreum, that's our main focus right now. And we're going to get more into Coreum in a second and some fun news about it. But that is a huge up and coming part of the XRP ecosystem that has been given funding from Ripple. So, there's really some promising things going on there. They're working with Dubai. They're working with El Salvador. And I think the US is coming very soon. And so that's doing between 40 and 50% annual returns. And so that's the most I've ever seen from a crypto project in terms of staking rewards, let alone a solid XRP connected, utility driven, ISO20022 compliant crypto. There's a lot of bogus cryptos out there that are not legit, that will offer you crazy staking rewards. But for one that's actually a legit project that I vetted and has a solid team and a solid grassroots community, 40 to 50% annual rewards is like unheard of. Literally, that's the only one I know of. So we show you how to set that up, and then that's just a percentage of whatever you have invested. So if you have a couple thousand, 10,000, 100,000 or more, a couple $100, $10, doesn't matter how much you put in, you're going to get those same percentages. But obviously, the more you put in, the more passive income you can make. So yeah, we show you how to set those all up and get passive income generating in your wallet. Literally every day it pays out. Every second of every day you get payments. And so that is going to be a game changer. That is, I think, going to be one of the things that retires people potentially before XRP, which is really cool. So yeah, let me know if you have more questions about that. We can get more into it. This is not financial advice again, saying, went to my bank to exchange dollars for euros today. First, they claimed the exchange rate was 7% higher than it actually is. Second, they said I need to drive back tomorrow to pick them up because they have to be mailed to the to the bank, LOL. I thought about this clip the whole time. So yeah, that's how archaic the current, infrastructure and ecosystem of payments is, especially if you're going between different countries and currencies. And that's XRP's whole thing. That's what it's meant to do, is make everything smoother, quicker, cheaper, faster, and that level playing field for all. And that's where this graphic comes from, is, you're going to be able to move any form of value into any other form of value, not just national currencies, but stocks, gold, silver, treasury bonds, oil, natural resources. Anything of value is going to be represented on the blockchain in the coming years. And XRP, I believe, will be the core infrastructure behind, basically, you could say the spinal cord or the nervous system to the body of the global economy. Also, another news story, the SEC apparently accepted Grayscale's application to convert its XRP trust into a spot ETF. So ETF is exchange traded fund. Those are when financial institutions, primarily people associated with like gold and silver and precious metals, where you can get a representation of that base asset through this institution. And basically, I don't recommend anyone goes and buys ETFs because it's not really for us. We want to hold the crypto directly. But ETFs allow the investors, like if you have a 401k or you have some kind of mutual fund or investment portfolio with a financial institution, an ETF allows something like XRP to be included in that portfolio without you even knowing it. So, for people like your sister or your mom or your grandma or your friend who would never own crypto because they don't care, they don't know, they could end up holding XRP and other crypto in their 401ks, their retirements, their mutual funds, because of these ETFs. So ETFs open up the doorway for people to invest in these assets who would not normally be directly investing in them. So that's huge. And last I heard, there were 17, there's that number, 17 pending XRP ETFs. So here is a clip from Fox News talking about the U.S. Crypto Strategic Reserve. And of course, you have Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Cardano listed here. But I just like the framing of this, because look what's at the center of them all. XRP is literally at the center. I don't know if this was done on purpose or it's just synchronistic, but it's literally, it's the middle. It's the spinal column. It's what is connecting everything else. And if you remember, when Trump announced this strategic reserve, XRP was the first asset that he listed. And he didn't even put Bitcoin on that initial list. He said XRP, Solana, Cardano, I think Ethereum, and some others. XRP was the first one. And then the Bitcoin community got in a big hubbub because Bitcoin wasn't there. And he came out with a follow-up tweet that was like, oh, well, yeah, of course, we're going to have Bitcoin, be a part of it too. So I think, when we get this actualizing more, that's going to be another huge catalyst. Okay, so now we're going to transition into some of these other cryptocurrencies that we focus on in Conscious Crypto Academy and on this channel that are connected to XRP. So all of the cryptos that I invest in, that I talk about primarily here, and that we teach about in Conscious Crypto Academy are connected to the XRP ecosystem on a technology level, meaning they interact with XRP in some way, and or they have been given funding from Ripple as a company. So Stronghold has been given funding from Ripple, and they also are a bridge between XRP and XLM, which is Stellar. So XRP and XLM are often associated together. They're kind of a brother-sister coin. And Stronghold is like their baby or their bridge that connects the two of them. So recently, Stronghold had some big news where they locked 60 billion, which there's only 100 billion SHX total, which is just like XRP, 100 billion total. And they locked the majority of that in an escrow, much like Ripple has done with XRP. Now, Ripple's escrow is even smaller than this, but basically what they did is they took 1 billion amounts of SHX and they locked it into 60 different monthly accounts. So every month, one of those 1 billion accounts will unlock, and that basically allows the supply to have a trickle effect and the confidence for investors like us that they're not just going to dump the majority of the supply on the market, because that was a big criticism from people outside of this investment is, oh, how do we know they're not just going to put everything into circulation and really deflate it in a moment? So they locked it up. It's sealed in the code. It's immutable. It's in a smart contract. And any amount that is not spent, and Ripple does the same thing, any amount that is not spent that month or used in whatever way will be put back into the escrow. And in the case of Stronghold's escrow, it gets locked up for another 5 years. So this is currently on a trajectory. The last one is scheduled to unlock in 2030. And then say they unlock a billion next month, and say half of that or more or whatever doesn't get used, that will get locked back in the escrow and then put at the end of the chain and become unlocked again 5 years later. So that's really bullish for Stronghold. That's a really good tokenomics, as they call it, to give further security in the ecosystem. And Digital Perspectives recommend following him too, alongside Digital Asset Investor. They're some of the biggest XRP influencers in the space, and they've both started talking about Stronghold more and more. So this is honestly my favorite project behind XRP, even more so than XLM, because I think the return of investment will be significantly higher than that of XLM, since it's built on the Stellar network and it gets that trickle down effect. And the market cap is so small. I think it's around 150 million compared to XRP's over 150 billion, I believe it is. So that means a little amount of money flowing into Stronghold can make the price do crazy returns of investment, more so than it would with XRP with that same amount of money, which would just cause it to move a little bit. So more and more XRP influencers are talking about this. It's getting on the radar more and more. And I think this is going to be another one that really retires people, and that you can get a lot of it right now for a very cheap price. I think currently it's still under 1 cent. And it's one of those big movers that when it moves really strong. And I called this for our Crypto Academy back in September of 23. And since then, it's done like over a 30x return of investment. And it did most of that within like a month. It did like a 30x. So I think it's gearing up to do another really big pump in the near future. And now this is crazy, guys. So in relation to Stronghold, I was the first one that I saw to break this story on X. And then I saw other more popular content creators sharing it out and posting it themselves, taking my screenshot, not giving me credit. That's okay. That's not a big deal. I don't care about the credit, but it was cool to see that I was like the first person that actually caught this and posted about it, that I could tell. So Stronghold sent out one of their email updates, and I think this is still the most recent one. It went out June 17th. And in the email update, they literally put a bearable guy Riddle, an XRP bearable guy Riddle, in the email and called it Community Fan Art Spotlight. And it took me a sec because I was like, okay, there's got to be something different about it. If they're calling it fan art, they must have changed it. But no, it's literally the exact Riddle. Like nothing's different about it. And to build on this, it's long been theorized within the Stronghold community that in all of these XRP bearable guy riddles, you can see the castle over here on the right. All of them have a blue brick in the castle in one form or another. You can see it's the center brick in this castle in this picture. And the theory has been that the blue brick represents Stronghold as the cornerstone of XRP and the ecosystem, and that it has a big role to play. And so I think this was a massive confirmation of that. And I didn't see them talk about it. You know, I tagged them in it. A lot of people tagged them in it. I didn't see them comment on it at all, but they had to have known. Like, why would you post this as fan art and put it in with all of the theories, which they most definitely keep up with, you know, the community theories and the sentiment that's going on, because the majority of it is XRP community people who are into this kind of esoteric Riddler side of it. So to me, that was a huge confirmation and a green flag and a subtle nudge and acknowledgement basically to those theories that Stronghold is going to be a big role. And to take it a step further, you can't see it here, but on the trees here and in every single Bearable Guy riddle, there is cryptic text that is hidden in every riddle. So on this one, you can't see it because the picture is lower quality. But if you get the high quality version and you zoom in on the trees on the left where the king here is holding the trees, there's a string of cryptic numbers and letters that don't mean anything off the bat. And somebody commented here. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody commented that they threw that string, that cryptic text, into an AI. Specifically, it was the WhatsApp AI, which uses the Meta AI, and asked it to decode that that message. I'm trying to find it here. I don't see it, but basically, I took screenshots of it. But what they said, what it came back as saying is, the first one said the future. I think it said something like the future is now, and then the second one said the future is now SHX. And the AI was like, it acknowledged, it's like, I don't know what SHX could mean. It didn't have any prompting beforehand. It didn't know what Stronghold was. It just took these random letters and it translated it to the future is now SHX. And it was like, we don't know what SHX could be. Then maybe that's, you know, that could be an error or something because it didn't recognize it. But obviously we recognize that very clearly. And so I don't know what that means. That I don't think it means that XRP is not here to stay, but I think it means that SHX is going to be playing a huge role in the XRP ecosystem and in global payments. And, you know, what I've been saying for a long time is that SHX is set up to be the new retail payment infrastructure. Like when you go to the store, when you go to the, say, a mall, or you go to a restaurant or something, you know how currently the most popular thing is that little screen, and they notoriously swivel it around and say, oh, it's going to ask you a question, and you have to choose how much you're going to tip, and they don't really give you a choice, or, you know, they give you the stink eye. That machine is from a company called Clover, most of them. And if you remember, Clover took over pretty fast. Like before Clover, most people were using Square as their payment processing. And Clover took over really quickly with these fancy screens. And another one that is out there is called Toast. So Clover, Toast, and Square are the most popular ones. PayPal also has some, but it's not as common. I think Stronghold is going to take over that, and possibly as quickly as we saw Clover take it over from Square. We know Stronghold has NDAs and partnerships with really big companies like IBM, Walmart, and a handful of other ones. And much like Ripple, where they used to have all their partnerships out in the open, both Ripple and Stronghold have since removed all of that from their website and their white papers. So you can't find those partnerships anymore. And to me, that signals they're under an NDA and they can't talk about it. It used to literally be in the white paper, and now it's not. So I think they're going to take over that. And basically what they provide is not only the payment infrastructure, but it's powered by blockchain running on Stronghold, and it pays both parties in Stronghold SHX rewards. So both the seller and the buyer receive essentially a cash back in Stronghold for using that payment system. So imagine people going to Walmart and everybody at Walmart is checking out. And when they're checking out, they're not paying in Stronghold, they're paying in US dollars. I think you will be able to pay in crypto, but they're not even going to know the difference. It's just going to be like checking out like they normally do, but all of a sudden it's going to be powered by Stronghold. I believe that is what is to come. So that when I saw that, I like almost pooped my pants because that was so exciting and like such a just crazy blunt acknowledgement of the entire Ripple Riddler lore and timeline. And in that email, they also talked about their upcoming credit card, where they're going to have a crypto credit card with SHX rewards that they're currently working on and refining. And there's the picture once again. So yeah, crazy stuff, guys. And on that note, Alexis and I went to a music festival called Lightning in a Bottle a couple months ago. And, we brought, people at the music festivals, they bring totems, as they call them, which are basically like, pieces of art or signs or whatever that you carry around to kind of find your group and like, make conversation with people. So we made one that was the bearable guy picture. And I want to see how many people would, recognize it. And I think there was only one person who actually recognized it. The other side of our totem was we had a couple of different ones that we were switching out, but one of them was a David Wilcock face, like a funny meme of his face. And a couple of people recognized that, which was funny. But, this is still not very popular. So even amongst a festival of like 40,000 people, there weren't that many people that recognized it, which just, tells us how early we are. But when I posted this online, it went semi-viral because people were, stoked to see that. And everybody in the comments was like, oh, if I was at a festival, I would have come up and talked to you right away. Like, that's so cool. What a good idea. It was fun. So moving on now, we're going to talk about Solo and Coreum. So Solo and Coreum are two other very small up and coming assets that are in the XRP ecosystem that I focus on, that I invest in, and that we teach about in Conscious Crypto Academy. Solo, short for Sologenic, is actually the number 2 asset on the XRP ledger. So if you're not familiar with it, with the concept of layer 1 and layer 2 assets, you or I or anybody, we could go create a coin right now on the XRP ledger or any blockchain that you don't have to create a whole new blockchain. You can create just a coin and it runs on that existing blockchain. So that's like what meme coins are. Meme coins are all these like coins that people have created that exist either on Ethereum or Solana or XRP. And while meme coins are just more of grassroots community projects, this is an actual utility-driven project with a lot of utility and a lot of promise. And they're the biggest one on the XRP ledger. So behind XRP itself, Solo token is the second biggest coin on the XRP blockchain. And they are the same developers behind Coreum. So Sologenic and Cororeium is the same team. It was co-founded by this guy, Bob Ross, not the painter, but another guy with his namesake. And basically what Sologenic is doing is they are creating the future of tokenization and real world assets on the XRP ledger. So when it comes to all these things like tokenizing stocks, bonds, gold, ETFs, all these things, Sologenic is the one that's building the infrastructure for that to happen on XRP. And they've also been giving funding from Ripple themselves. So it's got that double win. And it's automatically ISO20022 compliant, which is the new global messaging standard that not every crypto is compatible with, but XRP and XLM and all the tokens we focus on for the most part are compatible with the ISO20022 system. So because Solo is built on XRP, it's automatically compatible. And they had some big news recently where they are not only working with the Dubai government, but they met with the president of El Salvador, President Bukele, who's been becoming more and more famous because he has been meeting with Trump a lot. And so he met with these guys, Bob Ross and his co-founder Reza, and they literally met with them to discuss implementing this into the El Salvador economy, you could say, infrastructure, just days before the President Bukele met with President Trump. So these guys met with Bukele, and then days later, he met with Trump. And to me, that was just like perfect, alignment. Like, okay, I see what's going on here. And then shortly after that, Bukele and the U.S. came out and said that they are that our SEC is working with the El Salvadorian equivalent, their SEC, on tokenization of value on the blockchain, and that they are working together for this. And so if you just connect the dots, they're very, very, in your face. If you're following this information, who is working on tokenization that just met with them? Well, it's these guys. So I think that they're going to be the winner when it comes to institutional grade tokenization, utilizing XRP. So here is my buddy Zen God, Zen Warrior. You can follow him, recommend checking out his content. He focuses a lot on Solo and Coreum, and he's also runs the biggest validator node for the Coreum blockchain. And he says here, Bob has been giving the alpha this entire time, alpha meaning like, the good info, the intelligence. This entire time, the first chain for tokenized USA stocks has been ordained, hate it or love it. And this is a tweet from Bob that says, the first one always wins. Coreum empowers business of all sizes, small or big, even regulated financial institutions, to harness blockchain for next gen financial solutions. And, we talked earlier about how like the first of any technology is rarely the best one, but this is different because when it comes to Bitcoin doesn't get updated or upgraded, right? Because it's created anonymously. There's nobody that's developing for it actively. There's not active updates happening. It's just staying what it was when it was created in like 2010. Whereas with Sologenic, they have an active development team, much like XRP with Ripple. And so in this case, the first one does win because it's not staying this stuck dinosaur technology. It's going to continue to grow and be adapted and get integrated into the global infrastructure. So that would be like, akin to Apple or Microsoft or Amazon being the first in their space to develop big technologies that end up, growing into these enormous powerhouses. He says Coreum empowers business. Oh yeah, we already read that. So the retweet here says the first tokenized stock and ETF platform available in the US is coming in a few months. Watch this interview and get yourself on the Solotex waitlist. So Solotex is a new, I'm jump ahead here, is a new venture created by Sologenic, combining with another broker, SEC registered broker dealer called Texture Capital. So Sologenic's big thing for years is that they've been trying to secure the broker dealer licenses that they need in the United States, which they already have, I believe, in Dubai, and I think are coming in El Salvador. But in the US, it can be more complicated. And so in order to actually enact their goals here, they needed a broker dealer license. And that's what they've been saying for years. Like, we basically have this already. We're just trying to secure our license. And because of the bureaucracy, it's taking forever. So what they did back, I think, during Biden, before we knew who was going to win the election, they partnered with Texture Capital, because Texture Capital is an already registered broker dealer. So they had all of the permits and the licensing that they needed. And so they partnered to create this new platform called Solotex, which utilizes Sologenic and Coreum to actually do the tokenization utilizing Texture Capital's broker dealer license. And Texture Capital was one of the core, I think, 7 crypto groups that met at the White House for the crypto roundtable that they had recently. I think there were 2 of them, and they were at least one of them, if not both of them, Texture Capital. So the representation was already there amongst other top crypto groups like Coinbase, Circle, and others. So all the dots are aligned, and most people don't even know about this, because most people, who are not researching this, like I am, and Zach and the other people in these communities, they're not keeping up with this, and they're not talking about this on the news. They're not, telling you about this. This is what's being built. And if you have the eyes to see, or you follow the right people, or you're in like a community academy like ours, you're going to be able to see what the average person is not getting access to and connect the dots. And when you see the dots, they connect very easily. So this is really exciting. And what they're doing next is that they're going to be launching this service in August. So that gives us a very direct timeline for when this is going to go live and when we're going to start seeing tokenized assets on the XRP ledger utilizing Sologenic and Coreum. And so I think, you know, if you can get into this now, it's going to set you ahead August when this is going to be made more mainstream. And some of the theories are that, you know, Tesla stock could be one of the first stocks that are tokenized. And imagine, you know, the first Tesla tokenized stock on the blockchain. That might be something that Elon tweets about, because that's pretty good for Tesla. And, you know, he's already into crypto. So imagine Elon tweeting this out and going, hey, you can buy Tesla stock now on the blockchain. You can hold your Tesla stock and your other stocks in your private crypto wallet. This is a whole game changer, because right now to invest in a stock, you have to hold it with a broker or with a bank. But now we're going to be able to have a level playing field where anybody, you don't have to be an accredited investor. You're going to be able to go out and buy stocks, and you're going to be able to hold them alongside your XRP and your XLM and your other assets on your private crypto wallet. So that gives you full sovereignty versus holding your stocks with a broker or with Robinhood or something like that. And then the next step is you're going to be able to spend those directly. You're going to be able to spend your stocks like you spend your crypto. We're going to be able to spend it at stores. So even though we talked about Stronghold building that infrastructure for payments, part of what I think they're going to include, and part of where this is going with XRP and Sologenic and Coreum, is we're in crypto in general, is you're going to be able to spend your crypto directly anywhere you go in the world. That's just inevitable. It's just a matter of time. You're not going to have to go to an exchange and sell your crypto and take profits and put it into your bank and do all that nonsense. You're going to be able to just take your wallet to the store, tap it, or do whatever to spend your crypto directly. And that's what this infrastructure is setting us up for. And then to be able to spend your stocks, you know, picture you're going to the grocery store and you're just looking at your wallet and you're like, okay, do I want to spend my XRP on groceries? Or maybe I want to spend my digital gold, or maybe I want to spend my tokenized Tesla stock, or my, you know, my treasury bonds or whatever. That's what the blockchain is going to do. It's going to make it all accessible, instant, liquid, quantum, if you will. So that is super exciting. And if you can take advantage of this before this becomes mainstream, that's going to be life-changing wealth. And here's a post from Bob Ross from November of 2024, where he says, well, let's see, the first tweet says, why is Coreum positioned to become a tokenization hub? With recent updates from partners like Real Sologenic and Braille XYZ, RWAs, which again, real world assets, are coming to the super ledger, which is what Coreum calls itself, to leverage Coreum's programmable and secure infrastructure. And Bob Ross says, should Sologenic create the world's first decentralized RWA marketplace on Coreum, designated for RWA token issuers and all licensed broker dealers authorized to issue tokens in various jurisdictions, Coreum is built to support financial institutions in maintaining compliance. And one of the things I really love about Coreum is they are what they call themselves an enterprise grade blockchain. So they're built for institutions, just like XRP, but it's also like XRP, got this really amazing, genuine grassroots community where we see this amazing blend of the institutional grade infrastructure that's going to bring in the big money, trillions, maybe quadrillions of dollars. And then you have the grassroots communities built from the ground up that have gathered around these projects. And I haven't seen that anywhere else in the space outside of these projects and Flare networks a little bit as well. But when it comes to other cryptos, like the institutional ones generally don't have grassroots communities, and vice versa. The grassroots communities generally don't have institutional connections. So this is like the perfect synthesis and literally a divine integration of these different energies, which to me, major green flag, and one of the reasons I love both these projects so much. And in addition to that, we were talking earlier about the rewards. Coreum is the main focus in Conscious Crypto Academy that we teach about for passive income rewards. So like I said earlier, right now, the staking rewards are 40 to 50% APY, annual percentage yield, depending on how much you're compounding your interest. So I think right now the flat APR, the flat rate, is like 42%. And then because this pays you out every second of every day, which by the way is the future of payroll in the workforce, that instead of getting a check every 2 weeks or a salary or whatever, people will be paid in real time for their work. For corporations and governments and whatever, everybody's going to get paid in real time, whether it's through something like this or through another system. But with these rewards, they literally come in every second. You refresh your wallet and you see more and more Coreum coming in your wallet every second of every day. And then you can take those rewards, you can put them in another crypto, you could sell them into your bank and spend them. Or what I do, and what I think is the smart move, is just keep those rewards, put them back in that interest generating machine and let it compound, because compounding interest is what they've used to keep us down. They've used compounding interest, the credit cards, the banks, primarily with credit cards, to keep us broke, right? We have compounding interest that is working against us and getting us more in debt. So this technology gives us compounding interest that's now working for us sovereignly to be able to raise our financial energy and our financial abundance, so that now we're not being put down by it, but we're being built up, and we don't have to rely on the system anymore. So if you're compounding it, that's where you can get upwards of 50% annual returns. And that is a limited time thing. Generally in crypto, the way it works in what's called DeFi, or decentralized finance, is the earlier that you participate in these protocols, the more money there is to be made. And as more people participate, the less rewards there are to go around for each individual. And so we already know that based on new amendments that have been voted in through the community governance, that percentage, because they're going to be mitigating the inflation that pays for those rewards, there's a built-in algorithmic inflation that is decided upon by the algorithm, by the health of the ecosystem. So it fluxes, but that inflation will be going down because that's what the community has voted on. And so that's going to also bring down the rewards. So it is a very limited time to get those really high rewards for Coreum. And I'm taking full advantage of it. And everybody in our academy, we're setting them up to take full advantage of that. That's like the main thing that we get to teaching you once we teach you all the basics and the wallets and XRP. The Coreum staking is more advanced level, because it's not easy to set up. It does take a little bit of knowledge of how to actually do it on a tech level. And that's part of the lucrative nature of it right now, is that you have to basically either be really dedicated to this research and learning how to do it in the trenches, as they say, every day, like keeping up with it, or you get a coach and a community like we have at Conscious Crypto that shows you how to do it super fast, so you don't have to spend days, months, years figuring out trial and error how to figure this all out yourself without a community to help you out when you hit obstacles. So that's like the main thing we get you towards at the end of the academy, is setting up this Coreum staking and getting those crazy rewards. There's specific wallets you have to do it on. Like, even if you buy Coreum on like Uphold, you can't stake it through there. You can't stake it even in the native form. You have to bridge it over to the mainnet. And there's these different things that we teach you how to do. But yeah, I personally, I would expect these rewards to even out around the probably anywhere from 8 to 20% over the coming years as this grows and as it goes up in price. So that 40 to 50% is like major lucrative opportunity that you can take advantage of now and really, juice that lemon and get the most juice out of it while that opportunity is here. And then, I think these smaller assets, especially like Coreum, Solo, Stronghold, SHX, because they're such smaller market caps. This is actually the smallest market cap of all of the assets that we teach about. I think it's currently around a $50 or $60 million market cap. Again, compared to XRP's like $150 billion market cap, 150 billion versus 50 million. I can easily see this asset and these other small ones doing anywhere from 100 to 1,000x in the coming years. And that's really when you get life-changing money. So imagine you just put in even a few $1,000s and it does crazy, crazy returns. Say you've got $1 million in that crypto in a couple years. And then even if you're only making 10% annually on that million, that's $100K a year that you're making in passive income. That's like quit your job, you're set for life. You know, you're living off of the interest that you're generating. You don't even have to sell the crypto at that point, and you've got a full-time income. And that's what we're teaching people how to do and work towards. So I'm super excited about what they're doing over here. I think we hit all these stories. Just check in. So yes, let's transition into some other stuff now. So in other news, Trump has said that, or real quick, White Light Messenger says, I couldn't find SHX on the exchanges I normally use. I was able to swap some Ether for SHX, but the fees are crazy. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So Stronghold is not available on any of the major exchanges. Coinbase Wallet, I've heard, will let you swap Ethereum into SHX like you're talking about, but it is the Ethereum version of SHX. It's not the one that exists on the Stellar network that we're talking about. So I don't buy that version. I go with the mainnet version built on Stellar. And also, if you want to learn more about Stronghold, go to their website here, stronghold.co, or their sub website. If you do /SHX, it'll take you to specifically the crypto. Basically, you have to go through the Lobster wallet, which they have listed here. That is the main and the easiest way right now to get Stronghold. This is another thing that we teach you how to do in Conscious Crypto. But basically, you have to get XLM onto the Lobster wallet, and then you swap your XLM into SHX. But you also have to be careful because there is a lot of fake SHXs out there. So basically what you got to do is when you're searching for it, you type in their website, stronghold.co on Lobster, and that'll get you the correct Stronghold. Again, that's why this is so lucrative, because the average person is not going to figure this stuff out yet. And when this gets listed on the big exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, Uphold, Crypto.com, that's when we're going to, I think, see really substantial increases in the demand and in the price, because then there will be a massive gateway for the average person to invest in these. Whereas right now you have to like find someone like myself or other people who can like walk you through how to actually correctly get it. So yeah, there's the Ethereum version, which is, I don't get that one. I get the XLM one. That's the mainnet version. I don't know if in the future you'll be able to redeem the Ethereum version for the Stellar version. I don't even really know why they still have the Ethereum version. I think it's just because they made it, it's out there. Maybe it'll get more integrated, but I think the price may differ on them too. So you'll want to look into that to see. But Ethereum gives you a bunch, you know, you get fees, slow transactions, all this nonsense with Ethereum. You can also hold your Stronghold on your Decent wallet, hardware wallet. So once you buy it on Lobster, you can move it over to your Decent hardware wallet. It's the only hardware wallet that I know of that supports Stronghold, unlike Ledger. That's one of the reasons why I love Decent so much, because it will hold all of the different coins that I've talked about and that we focus on in Conscious Crypto Academy. And if you want to get one of these, I have a discount link down below in the description that will get you $30 off, and it'll give me a little bit of a kickback as well if you use that link. So that is down there if you would like to get one. And coming back to the Trump post. So Trump has said that he is interviewing candidates to replace Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Powell has been one of the people that's kind of been a blockage to crypto adoption. So I'm assuming he's going to put in a pro-crypto person into the Fed chair position. And, you know, as we've talked about, I think eventually the Federal Reserve will go away and it will get, its responsibilities will get rolled over into the US Treasury, so that we don't have a, you know, centralized private bank running our our country's finances like we currently do. I'm sure most of you already know about all that. You know, the creature of Jekyll Island, the book that talks about how all these bankers got together to create the Federal Reserve on Jekyll Island off New York. And it's been this whole issue. So I do think they're going to be rolling that over into the treasury, and that's where we could get this new treasury gold-backed dollar. And this would probably be an intermediary position or candidate that would kind of maybe facilitate that transition. But for now, one of the other things I forgot to put in here in regards to this is that the ISO20022 framework is going live. I believe it's this month on the 14th, July 14th, for the Federal Reserve. So that's the whole FedWire system that has been implemented in the last few years for government payments. And the ISO20022, again, is the global infrastructure standard for payments of all kinds. And XRP, XLM, all these assets we just talked about, they are all compliant, or technically the word would be compatible with that ISO20022 standard. So that's a big plus for all those assets, and another reason why I focus on them so much. So that goes live this month, July 14th, I believe, for the Federal Reserve for FedWire. So getting near the end here. This was posted by the usdebtclock.org today, which if you don't know, I believe they are a private organization. They're not government related, but they probably do have some government connections. They've been posting a lot of stuff about XRP, this new treasury dollar, this financial reset, the whole shift that's going on. And this says the Fed banking cartel, a declaration by we the people. In accordance with the power granted to we the people by the Most High God, we assert our right to secure our life, liberty, and property. In doing, we find it necessary to undo the injustice brought upon us by a secret private banking conglomerate known as the Federal Reserve. The Fed has systematically stripped the wealth of our nation and placed it into the hands of an elite few, using a carefully crafted criminal scheme dating back over 100 years. Most of you already know this. While posing as a federal agency, they operated as an unlawful money laundering and racketeering debt and interest exchange that has no actual reserves. Because of the fraudulent nature of their enterprise, we the people seek full reparations and restitution of assets acquired from the inception of the conspiracy to counterfeit the USA dollar. We expect these forfeited assets to be remitted toward the establishment of the USA Sovereign Wealth Reserve, which is exclusively owned by the American people. On this day, 4th of July, 2025, we the people declare our independence from the Federal Reserve Bank. So I think that is a major hint of what's to come. It plays into everything else we've been talking about here. And in terms of this NESARA, JASARA, QFS timeline, I've always said that I'm not banking on there being any free handouts. I think the majority of this wealth transfer will come from people who have invested in these assets we've been discussing, namely XRP is the one that so many spiritual, activated, awakened people have felt this divine guidance from God, from their spirit guides. I've had people tell me aliens have come to them in dreams and in visions and told them about this and to buy XRP. I think the majority of the wealth for this reset will come from these investments, but there could be some kind of NESARA, JASARA style payout. And this does seem like a possible and practical avenue for that to occur. So even though I'm not banking, no pun intended, on that occurring, I do see that as a possibility. And I mean, this would be a great way to do it. Like take the money that the Federal Reserve has fraudulently acquired and disperse that to we the people. And then, there's all the other funds, dynasty family funds that have been used for all sorts of crimes against humanity. And there's the possibility that those could be given to we the people through some kind of reparations and restitution as well. So that is exciting to think about. But at the same time, I would say focus for sure on what we know is happening, which is these assets. We know, on paper, we've got the data, we've got the evidence right in front of us that this wealth transfer is happening through these digital assets like XRP. And if this happens too, fantastic. Like that's even better. But, I wouldn't completely bank that you're going to become rich just from some, free handouts from the government. Although if it happens, like that'll be amazing. It probably won't be enough to be like, you know, as financially set as you would investing in these assets. Like, you know, if everybody gets, say, $1 million, you know, I could see that working. And the thing that I've often postured is, you know, if we are given some kind of reparations or restitution, and say everybody gets $1 million, and if we are given a way through the blockchain to put that to use and get like staking rewards, like we're talking about with Coreum. But if that occurs with this, and say everybody can get 10% on their $1 million, then, you know, that's a full-time salary, 100K a year. That's like a really good job that, you know, you could get for free, basically. And it also gives us the full sovereignty. It's basically a UBI, but it's like a decentralized universal basic income, where we won't have to be reliant upon the government. It could be a one-time payment, and then you can choose to go blow that on a McLaren or a house. You know, that's not even a mansion anymore. Years ago, that $1 million would get you a mansion. Now that's like your average house in California, or, you know, a lot of states now, like, you know, in a normal neighborhood, a lot of houses cost $1 million now. So you could blow that really easy, or you could put it to use, get interest on it, generate compounding interest, and really set yourself up for success. And I see that as being a solution to this whole AI taking our jobs problem of, you know, people losing their jobs because of AI and other technologies, automation, robotics, all this stuff. This would be a good way where we wouldn't have to rely on a government check every month. It's totally in our hands. You get that money, you choose to blow it, you choose to save it, compound the interest, totally up to you as an individual. And that makes a lot of sense to me on a kind of karmic, spiritually sovereign and balanced level. Now, let's quickly touch on meme coins, and then we'll wrap up this call. But I know a lot of people, particularly in our academy, we're talking about meme coins more and more. And like I said earlier, you know, most meme coins are bogus. They're BS, you know, they're pump and dumps. But some of these XRP meme coins, I think, have a really, to me, the best opportunity of being projects that are legitimate and becoming like a new Doge, you know, Doge being the biggest, most successful meme coin out there, and like the either top 10 or top 20 cryptos. So this is an interesting post from David Schwartz, again, the guy at Ripple. And he says here, I noticed something interesting about many meme coins on the XRPL. In many cases, nearly all of their liquidity is in the form of an automated market maker, or AMM, between XRP and the meme coin. This means that if the price of XRP, say measured in dollars, goes up 5%, the price of the meme coin, again measured in dollars, goes up 5% automatically because of the automated market maker. It maintains the same exchange rate to XRP. Of course, the meme coin's price can change independently of the price of XRP, and an increase in the price of XRP leading to an increase in the price of the meme coin can trigger profit taking in the meme coin, even if it doesn't trigger profit taking in XRP. But still, it means that if you hold $50 worth of a meme coin of this type, one component of the future price of the meme coin will be changes in the price of XRP. In effect, you have some exposure to the changing supply and demand for the meme, and some exposure to the changing value of XRP. So if you want to hold XRP, but want even more risk and even more volatility, consider holding a meme coin whose liquidity comes primarily from an automated market maker to XRP. And so you have First Ledger here saying meme coins equal good. And First Ledger is the big popular meme coin platform for XRP coins. Now, this just started in the past year, in October of last year. And since then, it's become really popular. People have been making meme coins like crazy. Obviously, the majority of them don't turn out to be anything. You or I, we could go make one. A lot of them are pumps and dumps, but you do have these top, 10 to 20 coins here, which have consistently held their value for the most part and are starting to get really solid communities. So what I see meme coins as becoming is not just this pump and dump, not just this gambling thing, but basically tokenized communities. So communities on the blockchain, communities that come together to create value, which the value is the community itself. And in some cases, you have external value, you have NFTs, you have initiatives that they're doing to bring more utility into it. But for the most part, it's the community coming together to go, hey, we want to continue to support this project. You know, a lot of times the developers will turn over their supply and they become community run projects where there's no developer that holds the supply anymore, that has the control, but they're community projects at that point. They call it a CTO, or community takeover. And so that's the case with like Sigma down here is a really popular one that my friend Zach Zen Warrior is a really big part of the leadership in their community. They did a big after party at the XRP Las Vegas event where they had, I think, hundreds, if not maybe thousands of people attend that event. Really kind of like a cult following, you could say, in a good way. And then there's a lot of other ones on here that are popular. Drop is one that Joel in the chat talked about that he really likes. Drop was created by this guy on Twitter who has his own YouTube channel named Alex Cobb, who is a big kind of XRP influencer and a comedian. And he, oh, that's not the right one. He created this to, oh, that's weird that his account isn't coming up. That's really weird. I wonder if he got banned or something. But anyway, he created Drop and then he deleted his entire supply. So he doesn't own any anymore. So it's a total community run project. Phoenix, Salute, Army are all really popular. And then one that I've been getting into more recently is Fuzzy, which is now the #1 meme coin on the XRP ledger. You can see Solo is here. It's not technically a meme coin, but they do have it here. But in terms of meme coins, Fuzzy is the #1 XRP meme coin, currently sitting at a market cap of 28 million. So even smaller than these other coins like Stronghold, Coreum, Sologenic. You can see Solo is at around 100 million. So really small. And if you take into consideration what David Schwartz was saying, you know, he's basically giving you a nudge, like, hey, there's some real opportunity here. And I think that was really interesting and cool of him to lay that out for people. So the other thing about Fuzzy is I think there's a good chance that Fuzzy is actually the same people behind Bearable Guy and the Ripple Riddlers, that it is actually their meme coin, because the marketing and the energy and the website and everything about it is so uniquely professional and well pointed, and it's just got this energy to it. And I had this really strong intuitive call to it that I've not felt with any other meme coins. And I feel like they are going to be one of the big winners of these XRP meme coins, and potentially the first one to reach $1 billion market cap, which is kind of the big race right now in this community, is which of these coins will be the first one to reach a $1 billion market cap. And, you know, 28 million to 1 billion, that's a big difference. Like there's 1,000 millions in a billion. So that's a big return of investment. I don't know. I'd have to do the math and see exactly what it is, but that is a big return of investment. And then when you take into account what David Schwartz is saying, you know, when you look at these charts, it gives you the price in terms of XRP. It's not in terms of dollars. So when you look at the big picture, when this goes up, you're essentially making more XRP. If you put in, say, 1,000 XRP down here at you know, 0.000 whatever 20, and it is at 0.00 whatever 40, that's a 2x in your XRP. That if you sold right here when you had bought in down here, you've doubled your XRP. So the way I see this is not something you want to dump all your XRP into. I only put a small percentage into these meme coins because, of course, they could just go to zero. That is a big possibility. But I think the ones that are the top ones, unless something drastic happens negatively, which I don't see happening, particularly for Fuzzy, I think that these are going to be very valuable in the future, and essentially a way to put in some of your XRP that you could multiply that small amount many times over. You know, if this does a 10x or 100x or 1,000x, the XRP you put in there could end up being worth more than your primary bag of XRP that you're holding. And so that's my goal with this, is to basically use this to multiply my XRP holdings and come out with more XRP than I started with in my primary portfolio. So if you want to use this platform, First Ledger, I do have a referral link down below that is tied to me. So I get a little bit of a kickback as well on like the trades. Basically the way they do it is when you do a trade, you pay a certain amount just in terms of the trading fee. It's very small, but if you use my referral link, I get like a small percentage of that trading fee for every trade that you do. So it's not really about like, me getting, it's not going to be like much money, but if for using this platform, if you're going to sign up, use my referral link if you want to. And what it'll do is it'll have you create a new XRP wallet, and you create that new wallet and then you fund it with some XRP, and then you can come in, you connect your wallet up here in the top right. If you hit connect, you can sign in with a First Ledger wallet, connect with First Ledger. They might run it all through Telegram now. They had this as a separate option, but it looks like maybe now that's just the primary. But what I use too is there's a Telegram bot that you can do all your transactions in. So you access your wallet through Telegram, which is really cool, especially if you're on Telegram often. You can see your balances, you can make trades, and you can do it all within Telegram as like this bot, which is its own chat that you talk to basically. And then you can access any of these coins, and you just swap some XRP into it and you can sell it whenever you want. It's all super simple. And, with the speed and efficiency of XRP, it makes it really easy. And that's why so many people from the Ethereum and Solana crowd, which is where most of the meme coins have existed, like pretty much all the meme coins, aside from Doge, that's a Bitcoin fork, but the rest of the meme coins like Pepe and all these random meme coins you've heard about, Shiba Inu, those exist either on Ethereum or on Solana. So for instance, Shiba Inu, if you try to move some of your Shiba Inu from one wallet to another, you're going to pay some hefty Ethereum fees, which is not cheap. Whereas with this, you're just paying XRP fees, which, like I said, are a fraction of a penny. So many people are now coming over from those other ecosystems for the meme coins to XRP. And a lot of influencers are starting to talk about this with their communities. And so I think in the coming year and years and sooner, months, potentially weeks, we never know exactly how and when these things are going to pop off. They usually do it without warning. But I think especially when XRP starts to take off, these meme coins are going to do really, really well. So again, that link is down below if you want to create a wallet with them. It's not a centralized account. It's a DEX. It's a decentralized exchange. So your wallet is your account. You don't put in your name. You don't put in any info, no picture ID or any of that, because it's all crypto to crypto. You're not using US dollars. So again, you got to fund it with some XRP, get some XRP, send it to this new wallet you're going to make, and then that will allow you to swap into any of these coins. And that's basically it. So again, the Decent wallet, if you want to get that down below, $30 off, you can get that. That's my favorite hardware wallet, give you the most security instead of having it on an exchange where you're vulnerable, or a soft wallet, which is not as secure as a hardware wallet. And if you want to join Conscious Crypto Academy, you can click the link down below as well. And you can join. You can book a free strategy call with me, and we'll talk about what you're at, where you're at, what you're looking for. And, if you want to learn more about it before you book a call, you can go to my website here, consciouscrypto.mykajabi.com, or you can also go to consciouscrypto.info is a shorter URL. And if you click learn more, it'll take you to that other website, and that's going to give you all the info about the different modules and topics that we cover, the different assets that we all talked about today, what's included, and then some testimonials from some of our members on their experience in the program. So that is basically it, guys. If you have any questions before we jump off the live stream, drop them in the chat now. And we will, if you have any questions, we'll go over anything you guys want to know about. And otherwise, the best is yet to come. So exciting times, especially for those that have been holding for so long, for years. And if you're a newer investor getting into this space, if you don't own any crypto yet and you've just been putting it off, I think now is the best time of any time, other than maybe if you got in like years and years and years ago when it was super cheap. But in terms of the risk to reward ratio, to me, the risk is so much lower. It's the lowest it's ever been, in my opinion, because of the Trump admin. Because last year, a year ago from now, like 1 year ago, we didn't know who was going to win the election. We didn't know if the future of crypto was going to be shot down and put into its grave, by the Kamala admin or by the Biden admin. But now that we've got crypto in, I think we're solid. Like we know that, the Trump admin is committed to being the #1 country for crypto. And even if you're not in the US, that's still going to benefit you, because if these assets go up, they go up for everybody. It's not just for American citizens. So beautiful times ahead. The best is truly yet to come. What's up from New Zealand? Good to see you, Kaz. Oh, it's just Cobb on Twitter. Okay, yeah, let's look it up real quick. So if you want to follow that guy, Alex Cobb, here it is. Yeah, thank you, Joel. He's a funny younger guy. I think he's in his early 20s, and he's been one of the OG XRP influencers. And yeah, good follow there. Oh, I don't have my screen sharing. Sorry, there we go. That's his Twitter account there. If you guys want to follow Mr. Alex Cobb, he is in fact a real person, not just a cartoon or AI. And he's live right now. That's funny. And I think Trump is live right now signing that bill. I don't know if it already happened yet, but I think it might have happened during this live stream. I'm going to go check it out afterward. Much love, White Light. Thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Let there be light. Happy holiday. Happy 4th. And I'm going to be doing more content soon. So keep an eye out. Follow me on my socials. I'm the most active on Instagram. That link is down below. You can join the free Telegram group. Follow me on X. Actually, I'm the most active on X, but my Instagram account is my largest following. So between those two, that's where I post the most. And thanks for hanging out, guys. I'll see you in the next video. And if you want to drop any comments about future topics that you would like me to cover, please do that. And much love, and have a great 4th, guys. Take care. We'll see if we can do the outro. Still learning the new version of this streaming. Here we go. Peace.